Good evening, family. This is Shirley Hussar, and you are watching Shirley's World. This is a news alert. We had partly talked a little bit about this about a couple of days ago when I was talking about the Chinese and the immigration and then the illegal immigration, but the cross-pollination of culture regarding livelihood, food, and living has affected the world. And tonight we're going to talk about a serious crisis, which seems to be in such a state where it's kind of like it's being pushed out there slightly. And me and Mr. Research want to warn you, be blunt with you, and it's not going to always be nice what we're about to say right now. It's not going to be nice, meaning it's not going to be politically in the correct manner that most people would say we should address this. But if we want to save our people and we want to shock you from being caught off guard, we have to say some things in this video regarding the coronavirus. So first of all, let me thank you so much for Mr. Research is here with us. We also have a young lady named Edie. I'm going to bring her on in the segment in a moment. I can't even talk. This thing really has a lot of us shook. And I really want to let you know this is a really, really bad crisis. This is a news alert. This virus is growing at a rapid pace. These people, we talked about it, and make sure you go back and watch that video where I talked about how Chinatown was created in San Francisco. And from there, they created segregated sections of the country of America carved out for their people. Their people don't eat like us. They don't live like us, and they don't communicate the same way they do, like we do to each other, like us. And I say that because I think many of you guys aren't conscious of the culture, of the repercussions of eating foods that are not spiritual, that are not spiritually right, that are not sound, where God has told us we are not supposed to eat certain foods. We are not supposed to act in certain ways. We are not supposed to disrespect the laws of the land, the laws of nature. And now we are living in a time where the repercussion of those actions have affected our community. But what am I talking? What is the coronavirus? Let me go ahead and show you a video that kind of breaks that down of what this virus is and what is growing and how it is rapidly growing across the country. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
How many people did you come into contact with yesterday? Hard to remember, right? If you're carrying coronavirus, that could spell trouble. Coronavirus is a respiratory virus first identified in Wuhan, China, that is making headlines across the world because of its rapid spread. Symptoms include fever, cough, and difficulty breathing. It's not the first coronavirus to affect people. MERS and SARS are other well-known coronaviruses. The way this coronavirus spreads is still being investigated. It's thought to have come from animals at a market, but now seems to be spreading from person to person. The virus has made its way outside Wuhan to other parts of China and to Japan, Thailand, Australia, the US, and Canada. Contact tracing, a method where governments and health experts trace who an infected person has been in close contact with, is used to halt the spread of infectious diseases. People near an infected person are monitored, tested, and if they show signs of infection, quarantined. This method is difficult to execute given how mobile people are. There is no vaccine to prevent this coronavirus, and human vaccine trials probably won't even begin for 3 months. Public health officials are trying to determine exactly how coronavirus spreads, but it's probably through coughing, sneezing, or touching an infected person. Officials recommend common flu prevention strategies like washing hands, covering your mouth when coughing or sneezing, and staying home from work or school if you feel sick. Experts have mixed views on whether masks are effective. Tracking the virus will probably remain a challenge, and the outbreak could spread further across the globe.
So here we are, let me pause this, with an understanding of this virus and how it affects us. And Mr. Research, what's your take on this matter?
So here's the thing that everybody got to understand as Americans. This is not about singling out one group. What it is about is, and this is something we as go ahead. I'm sorry, Shirley.
No, go ahead. I'm letting you take the mic. Go for it.
This is something we as conservatives have been talking about in regards to things like NAFTA and going global. All that stuff was never necessary. America has been doing well with Americans buying American stuff. NAFTA was supposed to make this global thing where we benefit from having a world stage and everybody doesn't have to pay the high taxes. What does all that have to do? That has to do with this virus, because now that we've gone so global, what we as Americans have to face is if it's an Australian person that has a different way of living, eating, and habitation wise, we got to deal with that now. We didn't have to before. If it's a German person coming over, if it's an English person coming over. So with this said, these are Chinese people in their area. They were told back in the SARS days, stop doing what you're doing. Less than 3-4 years, they go right back to doing the same thing. So if we cannot get our global cousins and world friends to understand that what they do on a global stage hurts and affects other people, including and more so Americans, then we got to stop dealing with people on a global level. That's my conservative thing speaking first. Now let me talk directly to the virus. What you guys got to understand, some of the key points on the video that Shirley just played. Won't start human trials for 3 months. Let me say it again. Won't start human trials for 3 months. Within 5 days, we've had 170 people die over there. But you're not going to start human trials for 3 months? Okay, let me give you another point. The best solution right now, because they say they don't have a vaccine. Let me say it again. Don't have a vaccine, ain't going to start for 3 months. But they're relying on people who may have the virus to cover their mouths. This ain't me trying to scare nobody. This is me being honest on what they're telling us to do. Hey, don't be scared, but we don't have a vaccine. We ain't gonna really start nothing for 3 months. We're still trying to figure it out, and cover your mouth. Cover my mouth? I don't have the virus. Oh, we got to rely on the person with the virus to not spread it to us. Okay. Number 3, it's airborne. It has mutated in less than 72 hours. Oh, nothing to see here. This is kind of like SARS. Wait a minute. How are you saying it's kind of like SARS? And it's the first time, well, not the first time, but it's one of the rare few times that a virus has jumped from animal to human. So it's person to person. Let's be clear about that. No matter what anybody feels about the information we're going to talk about, let's be clear. It is airborne. CDC is still trying to figure it out. There is no vaccine. Trials won't begin for another 3 months. And Democrats want to be global. Some of you American bleeding heart people want to be global. I understand, but you have to also take a step back and say, wait a minute. We don't know how this is going to affect our homeless situation if they get it. They're in the metro cities. It may run rapid. These people have shut down all of their airports now. You got Russia denying access to China immigrants while America is still taking them. You guys got to stop playing with this. Shirley, I'm going to back up off the mic.
Boy, that was some deep statements that you made there, Mr. Research. I'm going to bring in another young lady. Her name is Edie. Edie is one of my Facebook friends. Edie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Edie, what you heard, Mr. Research, is that correct?
From what I understand, yeah, it is correct. And I actually have a nephew of mine who was affected by the MRSA or MERS or whatever you want to call it. My sister, he was adopted. He got it in a hospital. Fortunately, he saw doctors and everything, but it was literally prayer. was the means by which he was cured of it. That's been my tack from the beginning, as all this has gone on, is, people, you know, I call myself original Mama Grizzly because I was the one that started praying that God would turn our nation around. And anytime I've done this, a lot of things happen. But as we've faced all these different challenges, I've looked at it and said, okay, God, we're like Israel. We simply have to stand in faith that we're covered. And just like the Israelites, say that no plague shall come near me. We're facing huge challenges, and I'm not letting the government off the hook because surely you know how upset I have been. I used to live in LA about all the stuff happening there. It's huge on my heart. I've always had a big heart for the homeless. I am absolutely grieved at what's happening there. Yes, we need to hold them responsible, but we ourselves, we really need to pray. That is the place where I stand the most, because God is covering us, God is protecting us, and at the same time, with the other hand, we have to hold these people accountable.
Absolutely. That's one reason why I created Urban Game Changers, because we have
Right.
to hold ourselves accountable as well as what government has allotted. There are spiritual rules, if you guys agree or not, if you are a Christian or not, there are rules of the land, of the
Mm-hmm.
human being law. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've learned is over life and time, there's certain things we are supposed to eat. There's
Yep.
certain things we're not supposed to eat. There's
Mm-hmm.
certain engagements of equally yoked and unyoked with people and
Mm-hmm.
believers who don't operate by what presence God has put on this earth. And I believe, again, this is a spiritual perspective of the story, that we have three different people here. We all have the three different intakes and perspectives on this subject matter of this crisis. Again, this news alert. Thank you all for chiming in. My name is Shirley Hussar. We have Mr. Research. We have Edie from Facebook. We're all sharing and talking about this coronavirus, the SARS virus. Me and Mr. Research had said previously before, we call it the Chinese virus. Let them own it. They're the ones
Mm-hmm.
who are infected with it. They're the ones
Mm-hmm.
that disobeyed the Bible. These people eat bats. They eat rats. They
Yeah.
they eat things that are in the right perspective. So let me show you a video. Edie, hold on for a second.
Sure.
I want to put you on hold for a second. I want you guys to see this video, and I'm going to put a video up so that you can see where it's going to show you. This was on Mr. Research channel. I want you guys to make sure you subscribe, put the like button up, and let's have a conversation. And I'm going to talk about this first, and then I'm going to talk about what the Bible says about how we're not supposed to eat these foods. See, I believe this is a curse. Now, Edie just said to you, it's a plague. It replicates, it looks like, it could be, it has the feel and the touch of a full circle effect of a plague. Listen. Now I'm going to go back. I'm taking it parts. Mr. Researcher, you're there? Mr. Research?
Yeah.
I'm going to show this video and I'm going to stop it because it's kind of blurry. And I know people are going to have a hard time seeing what they're watching. Tell them, first of all, this is on your channel. What are we looking at right here? Because it's kind of blurry, but I'm going to stop it where the best way you can see these animals that they use at these open markets. Tell us what we're about to watch.
So this is an area of Wuhan, like a week, 3 weeks before all
Where
that.
Where is Wuhan? I don't know. What is Wuhan?
Wuhan is in the middle, I want to say middle southern eastern part of China. China's pretty big. It has several different sections, but it's more so in the middle. It's a little ways away from Bangkok. It's like in between, not Bangkok, Hong Kong. In between Hong Kong and where they had the Olympics. I can't think of that off the top of my head, but it's in between there. And what it was is just a video another guy had weeks ago of the same area, and he was touring the marketplace. So I grabbed that video before it got deleted.
So this is a recent video. Let's watch it. I'm going to stop it in parts so you guys can see. Here we go. Now, Mr. Research, what are we looking at here? It's kind of blurry, but what are we looking at?
So I lived over in China for about 4 months. People got different eating habits. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I go to different parts of the world. I lived in Romania and what have you. Everybody got different eating habits. But here you're looking at basically rats on a stick. This ain't nothing. I eat. I don't like mushu. Mushu is dog. And I'm not harping on people for their particular eating habits if they choose to do it where they are. My thing is, once we start cross-pollinating as people, we have to fully start understanding that some people are not going to stop their eating habits and are willing to go against what maybe they should be doing. And this jeopardizes all of us when they do that. So it's not for me, that's for them. But we need to stop the whole black-white thing, and we need to come together on policy and stop a lot of people who want to continue to do what they were doing in a foreign land over here. This is basically rats on a stick, to answer your question.
Here we go.
Well, you can stop right here.
Let me back it up a little bit.
So this,
Go ahead.
so this will be your mushu. Mostly, in some areas, they mostly eat black dog. There's these dogs that run around. They always have black fur. They're kind of expendable. It's very rare I see them do these light-colored dogs, but it's mostly black dog they go after. But this is where your mushu comes from. It's these little stray dogs. They catch them, they skin them, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
As you guys can see, here's a dog here, dog here. We're talking about the coronavirus, and this virus is allegedly gone from animals to humans and from human to human. And the reason why we're showing you these very strong videos of this is very normal for the Chinese people. This is very normal habitation, livelihood, eating habits. But this is not what the Bible says we should be doing. And this is not the culture of Western civilization. This is not how we are in America. But go ahead.
Now, I just want to interject one thing because I've lived there. Hong Kong people do not like associating themselves with the rest of China. Hong Kong people, because they were part of the Britain occupation, because they get very upset when you associate some of them get very upset when you associate them with the rest of the Yellow River people and the Mandarin people. They will tell you, hey, I'm Hong Kong born, I'm British educated, I'm not like them. Which is why right now, as we speak, all 4 different sections of China are on a who to blame fest, because they really don't like each other like that, even though they are from China. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to interject about Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is very serious about, hey, we ain't like them.
As you can clearly see, these are dogs. Again, they eat dogs. They eat rats. I'm going to show a little bit more of this video, and then I'm going to go to something else. I want you guys to see the numbers of people in this type of market. I think we've seen enough. I want you to see the numbers of people that are in these types of markets. These people are used to a lifestyle that we are not used to. We're not used to these kind of lifestyles, and they have affected our lives. And now this virus is growing. No one wants to equate it to the difference of the food. We just call it the virus. But I'm sorry, this came from China. This is the Chinese virus. The puppies and the rats on the sticks and things that we just go, oh my God, I would never eat that. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. But let me tell you a problem. Let me tell you a problem. Let me help you out. Let me help you out. Y'all ain't watch my videos. If you ain't watched that last video where I told you in San Francisco, which was the origin of China coming here, building their Black Wall Street, bringing their Black Wall Street culture. Ours came from slavery and the leftover foods. Theirs came from China. I told you, fast forward 2020, that these people have these restaurants and you guys don't know what anatomies that you're eating. You eat these buffets. You think you eat, everybody think everything is chicken. It's chicken, it's chicken. These people eat salamanders. They eat peacocks. They eat porcupines. They eat wolves. This is the eating habit. And nobody wants to tell you the real truth. Now, we done dissected. I'm going to show you some articles that tell you what they eat. But I needed you to see just a little blunt of the video. Now, to learn more, you have to go to Mr. Research Videos and watch his channel and follow him, because he's very blatant. He's been to China. I have not. He's been to China. And this goes back to a spiritual warfare where God has told us, I'm going to come from as a Christian, as a woman that loves the Lord. God has told us in the Bible, we are not supposed to be eating these animals. And for every action is a reaction. For every non-action, meaning the non-action of doing what was right and leaving these things alone, there's the aftermath. We are living the aftermath of a situation in a crisis. Go ahead, Mr. Research.
And let me say again, whether we Black Americans, white Americans, Chinese American, if you love America and you're here and you're dealing with what's here, you got to get on one accord and let's stop the infighting, because what's really happening is people from outside are not taking into consideration on how they're affecting America, because everybody want to run here. And with all the Whole Foods we have and all these socialized things that Democrats have been cheering for throughout the years, we got to understand we're not prepared for a airborne outbreak where all I got to do is be in the proximity of 5 feet of you. That's not a good look, because you don't know how it's going to mutate next. That mutation happened very quickly. Let's be clear about that. Even if you don't want to hear what I'm saying, respect this. Mother Nature made the mutation happen very quickly.
Very true. Very, very true. Edie, what's your take on this? Edie, you've been listening. Edie is also another friend of mine on Facebook. She's in the chat. Edie, what's your take?
Well, I guess my sense is that we need to, all of us, unite together and raise such a strong voice to our own government to start to take strenuous action. If this would have been the flu back in the 1900s, they would be quarantining people, disallowing people from entry, you name it, they would be doing it. Do you see this happening? No. What the hell is going on in the government? That's what I would like to know. I am tired of them making excuses.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm sorry. I think there should be a no holds barred when it comes to what's happening in downtown LA, in San Francisco, and all the rest of this. I have been just upset about this for ages because we cannot sit and let it happen. Where is, where's the Red Cross or whoever? Where's the CDC? I don't see them taking action on our behalf. I don't.
Well, Edie, I'm going to tell you what the CDC said. They said we're still gathering information.
Yeah, it's bullshit. I'm sorry. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. They should be, going bananas, doing whatever, even the quarantine. Okay, so they don't have something right now. Fine, quarantine. bar people at the ports of entry. Do something.
Well,
My
well,
God.
let me say it even worse. First, they said that the incubation period was 5 days. That was after 48 hours. Now they've jumped that up to 14 days. Okay, which one is it?
What the hell? Yeah, I'd like to know what the hell. I'm sorry.
No, and I think you guys are absolutely right. It's interesting for me though that when China said that they weren't taking planes in and out, and then people who are caught in the crossfire, right now your home country has cut you off from going back in, so you can't check your loved one because they don't know if you have it and you're bringing it back or you're taking it out. And then now you need to go somewhere. So now Russia has cut off their borders to you. You can't go to China. You can't go to Russia. But guess what? You can come to America. These fucking liberals want you to come over here, and now they're going to go to their Chinatown. So I'm going to tell you people who's listening to this video, and again, this is not to do with being racist, politically correct, or whatever.
Right.
The Chinese people live in quadrants. They live in their own communities. And my suggestion to you, you guys live your life the way you want. This is not a virus to take lightly. We've not lived in the era of the Black Plague. I think the last serious virus problem we had was AIDS. And Mr. Research, can you share again one more time about that cocktail you were talking about so people understand that?
Well, I was talking about the cocktail for the first, when the HIV virus first came around. You had to have several different types of solution to make one cocktail. And it was so crazy because when that first came around, I was first dabbling in the stock market, and I think the one needle was like $1,200 back then. Jeez. And I was like, what the? And this is before Magic Johnson came out, right? This is before Magic Johnson came out and said that he had it. But look how early that was in the game. And again, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to say what the reality is. The reality is there's no vaccine right now. You've had 170 people died and counting. You now have close to 8,000 infected. The very first girl that had it, when she went to the hospital, she infected 14 doctors. They're all now dead. So let's not pretend that we still want to talk about the impeachment of Donald Trump, or we still want to talk about what's going on with the Democrats, or we still want to talk about how much we hate Bloomberg, whatever you want to say. This virus ain't playing.
It ain't playing. What? Go back and say this again. Tell the people again so they have an understanding. Tell them about the doctor. Say that doctor line right now, because I'm about to show an article about a doctor who was working on this virus. Go ahead, say that again. When the doctors are getting infected, go ahead.
When the lady first went to the doctors in China, 14 of them got infected. It went airborne quick. That's it's not unheard of. It's just, people got to understand Mother Nature. Sometimes, in my view, this is my personal view, looks at human beings as a plague. We destroy earthly resources. We put a building up, and when we want to put a new building up, instead of us destroying the old building and put a new building, we go find some other untouched natural resources and create another building. I mean, at some point in time, this planet is going to get tired of us being here. The best thing we can do is try to operate in symbiotic nature with this planet. When doctors are getting infected just from being in the same area of the patient, how can you really treat that? And if you telling me that you're getting on a plane spraying some mist at somebody, and I don't know how that works, but that's supposed to be some detection method for you. How is the detection method really valid if you're still gathering information?
Absolutely. Shout out to Mr. Full Circle, who said, let's go. $5 made that $5 donation. If you guys want to make a donation, feel free to do this. We do this out of the kindness of our heart. No one compensates us for real truth news that we try to provide our Black community and Black media. What I find interesting is that the news are not going to be as blunt and more broken down as you're getting from the people in this video today. This is important. It is crucial that you sit down and talk to your family members. There's things that you need to do. Wash your hands, drink lots of water, stay away from people with masks. I've noticed already in the city of Los Angeles, people are walking around and they are wearing masks on their face. And I'm not mad at them. I don't know if they have it or not, but if they look Chinese with mask on them, I walk way around because it is airborne. What does that mean? What does airborne mean? Edie, tell them what airborne means.
It means transmitted through the air by sneezes, coughs, touch of the hand, anything like that through the air.
And that's kind of scary, you guys.
Yeah.
Because everyone call you get on a plane or whatever, and I'm flying.
Wait. I'm sorry. Kind of scary. You could have coughed 2 minutes ago, and I happen to walk in the same area where your particles are still in the air.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's some deep stuff right there. I want to show you guys another article, and this article is about a doctor who was here he is. I don't know how to say these people's names. Lang Wungdong. He was in the ETA. He was in ENT department in this hospital in China. He died Saturday. He was 62 years old. He was a specialist. Listen to this. This is the story right here. 62-year-old Chinese doctor died on the front line. He was on the front line with the coronavirus breakout after treating patients with an S. Patients with an S. This is, again, here's the situation, people, where we are not conscious of, because the world wants to kind of pussyfoot things around. They want to tap dance lightly. And this is not a light tap dance. This is a serious plague that's about to be upon us if we're not awake.
Chinese state media confirmed that 62-year-old doctor in Wuhan died after treating patients infected with the deadly coronavirus that has killed 41 people and infected nearly 1,300. Liang Wudong was an ENT specialist at Hubei Xinhao Hospital in Wuhan, China, who retired in March 2019 and had been at the front line of the coronavirus outbreak, China Global Television Network reports. Local medical staff in Wuhan have been overburdened by coronavirus patients, with some doctors wearing adult diapers because they don't have time to go to the bathroom. Another doctor, 51-year-old Jiang Jijun, died of a heart attack while treating coronavirus patients. Visit Insider's homepage for more stories. A Chinese doctor in Wuhan, the epicenter of the deadly coronavirus outbreak, died after treating patients. China Global Television Network reports that Liang Wudong, 62, was an ENT specialist at the front line of the outbreak. The Wuhan coronavirus has killed 41 people so far and infected nearly 1,300, causing the Chinese government to quarantine at least 12 cities and at least 33 million people. The virus is believed to have originated at a wet market where livestock and poultry are sold alongside animals like dogs, hares, and civets. Doctors in Wuhan have been overwhelmed with the number of coronavirus patients, and some are wearing adult diapers because they don't have time to go to the restroom. Wudong worked at Hubei Xinhao Hospital, which says he retired in March 2019. He died early Saturday.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Unbelievable. Did you guys hear the part where the article says that the doctors, listen, people, the doctors said that they are wearing diapers. They don't have time to go to the bathroom. They are pooping and shitting and peeing on themselves, trying to fix this virus. This is not nothing to joke about. When your doctor can't go to the bathroom. Edie, can you give me what your take on this one is?
Well, I just find it incredible. 33 million people quarantined. It's almost, I guess I would think that our government not only would be trying to protect us, but trying to do something about what's happening in China, trying to address that somehow.
But this is my question. Is this part of our problems though? We now pivot from, we've got already internal problems in America. We have economic, racial, homelessness, crises. We've got our own problems. And the serious virus is growing abroad. And we still let these people come over here. And guess what? It becomes our problem. Mr. Research, we ask you, is that fair that now we got to jump into this and then drop our plates and our livelihood to address this?
No, it isn't really. I mean, really, we should be disallowing these people from coming in. I mean, that's, like I said, that's what they would have done in the 1900s with the flu. They did. They stopped things, and they're not stopping anything.
Well, I just read something, but I'm trying to get some names, so I can't verify it unless I can get some senator names or some Trump affiliate names. But they're trying to say that there's an effort to try to get U.S. citizens out of China. Well, my thing is, it's not a risk. It's just like a movie. I don't want to risk the people who don't have it with the people that do. Let them have a vacation on government dime, sit at the facility, and just hang out. Let the people study on you, and let's send them pizza or whatever they need. They don't need to go home just yet, because you really don't know.
Right. Why were you such a rush to bring people back here? Well, we don't. When you said, Mr. Research, earlier, we watched that video where they said they're not going to be testing to try to find a cure for 3 weeks. Hell, in 3 weeks, you can take out half the planet or something.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that they don't want to. That's how long it takes. I mean, you mean 3 months? That's how long.
I'm sorry. Wow.
That's how long it takes for something to get to human trials. Like, you can rush it, but they need to have something close to a vaccine that probably will wipe out this vaccine. But it's just weird how they're doing it, because, kind of to Edie's point, take a vacation. If you just got off the plane and we know that you have it, isolate that person, let them have a vacation. Contact their job. Hey, look, they're doing something for the government. Don't worry about it. They straight. Keep their job rolling.
Let's look at this. Twitter has been the most effective for me. I've been watching a lot of the videos taped from China and people who are in the area, and then it comes over here. Let's look at this video. I have not seen it. I don't know if they let us see it. Here we go. Here we go.
3具尸体已经在这里躺了一个上午了，有的人已经是凌晨死的，到现在没有人来处理。然后医生、护士还有病人全部都在这种环境下面工作。这就是定点医院的现状，没有任何人管。刚刚找领导，没有领导，领导也解决不了。
Now, this was a video that was taken. Who was this tweet? This was January 24th, 2020. So this is just a couple of days ago. I want you guys to see there are people on Twitter posting videos. Let's watch this one. My God, look at all these people, you guys. Look at this. Look at this. Look, they're trying to get treatment. Look at this. Look at this. Look, look, look. Mr. Research, talk to me. Look at these people. How are they going to treat all these people? Doctor's dying. Mr. Research.
Well, it's a thing of not treating them. They need to see, here's the part. Here's the thing. Somebody's hoping, and I'm telling you what, I'm not a clinician, but I'm going to tell you, somebody is hoping to come across somebody that got it, but their body is naturally fighting off the disease. That person's going to be patient, help me. And they're going to try to recreate that blood as the vaccine. That's basically what's happening with all this.
That's an interesting scenario. Edie, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, that's probably what they're doing, because they have to do research and use whatever route they can to develop some kind of vaccine, serum, whatever, to combat it. I'm sure that's part of the process, because they that is what they look for, is somebody who their immune system is somehow fighting it off, figuring out what, you know, elements are involved in that, and trying to recreate a vaccine, serum, whatever that mimics that to inject people with.
Well, let's go to talking about how our everyday living that we may do, and we don't know that those people may be affected. Maybe we go to Chinatown. Everybody seems to have a Chinatown in their home state. I know we got them in California. We got Chinatown in LA, downtown Los Angeles. We have a Chinatown in the Bay Area. Chinatown was originated in California, so we have the most number of Chinese people here. But the food, I keep mentioning food, but somebody in this thread I was reading while the video was playing was talking about the nail shops. What about the nail shops, you guys? These people are in our neighborhood. They're in our neighborhood, and white and black, colonist people, white, black people, American people, they are in our neighborhood. They do your nails. They're in your hair salon. Now, those are mostly Korean people. People will say, surely those are Korean. Yes, they are Koreans, but they also have Chinese people who partner up with the Korean people. They all kind of cross-pollinate as a culture of people. Mr. Research had mentioned that. He had mentioned that earlier. That don't mix them up because they become offended, but I'm sorry. They still work together. Look, we're African American descendants of slaves. And then we deal with people in Caribbean, Belize, Jamaican, Africa, and they still commune within our community. So it's of the same diaspora, if you guys understand what I'm saying. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I don't know. I think kind of sort of we're past that. I'm more concerned with the person that was rich enough to be over near Wuhan and charter a private plane to get back home. That's the most dangerous person.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to think beyond just Chinese people, you got to understand the desperation of a person that want to stay alive. They're willing to accidentally infect 300 other people just to stay alive. I mean, when I gave the scenario about the 3 months for the vaccine and versus them just finding somebody, normally when you watch every virus type of movie, when the vaccine comes about, it's because what? The quickest way is somebody's blood. Somebody's naturally fighting it off. The other way is that they have developed a virus years ago and they've developed a cure for that virus. So they'll go try some cures to see if it'll wipe out this one. That's the whole purpose for creating deadly diseases is because the goal is to create it and then re-engineer it to create a solution for it. Yeah, antivirus. So that you'll be prepared for a virus like this. The problem with this, ladies and gentlemen, once again, from the time the person ate whatever it is they ate, it got in that particular person and mutated. When it became airborne that fast, that's kind of odd. For me, that says that it might mutate again. And if it mutates again, I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just trying to give you reality. If it mutates again, now they're going to have to start from zero. And whatever they told you was the incubation period for part 1, now part 3 is something totally different. Also, to everybody listening, look, you say you want real conversations online. You say you want real YouTube people to talk about real stuff that's happening. Let's act like we love the information that we're hearing. Make sure you donate. That's not coming from Shirley. That's coming from me, because you got to understand, people are not telling you. You could turn on CNN right now and they still talking about the Trump impeachment for the past 14 hours. So this is a real conversation.
Very much so, and it affects all of our lives. Edie, what's your take on it?
Well, I guess, I don't know what I can say to really add to that. I would like to say, though, that in agreement with Mr. Research, I really value what you share, Shirley, and I really feel that people, yes, need to donate. We need to unite. We need to work together. We need to be, in whatever way, pounding the doors of Congress, the White House, you name it. I know a lot of us have been doing that for years, but this is an issue that nobody can escape. And it just, I don't know, it just breaks my heart that more has not already been done in San Francisco, LA, with these sicknesses and diseases. It just kills me. It really does. And if we're going to do something, we really do. We need to unite. We need to put our money where our heart is and do something. We really do.
I totally agree with you. And thank you guys so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. This is not a one-man show. And this is not a commercial plug to say, help this person or help that person. But in some way it is, so that you guys understand that the more we communicate real life situations, on the ground situations, what happens in Congress and what happens with the state leaders and the federal leaders, they're disconnected from us. You all understand that? That even though, and by the time it gets to a lot of these people, and no fault to them, it comes because we're not pounding at their door to say, hello, this is priority, that is a minority issue. Right. We're not the ones pounding on these people's doors saying, are you going to address this virus issue? Well, we've been told, you've been told one thing, and what we're seeing on the streets is another. See, if you're going to stand and say, what's the Constitution say? We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and domestic tranquility. There is no domestic tranquility because we've allowed elected officials to allow diseases, a disruption of infrastructure, a disrespect of law and God and family. That's what this comes down to. Because this country was founded on Christian Judeo values. Now, you may agree or disagree, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, people, all you Muslims or whoever are listening. If you go to Washington, D.C. right now, you will find scriptures. Listen to me. You will find scriptures embedded in marble on plaques, on documents, on brass mounted statues in Washington, D.C., going back to the founding fathers. Like I've mentioned to you before, this country was founded by colonists. It wasn't founded for Black people. It was founded from the colonists who left England and wanted to start a new life and a new way of living. And we've evolved from slavery to so many things. And now we've integrated these other cultures of people in our country that don't serve the same kind of God and don't eat the same kind of foods. Right. What the foundational people set the premise of this country on. And now we are going down a path. We're going down a path, and God is not happy. And if you know scriptures, there have been plagues in the Bible. Hello. We haven't had a plague in a long time. We haven't had a plague in a long time. And knock on some wood, we're still here. And we plead the blood of Jesus upon us.
Amen. Amen.
We plead the blood because when we go back to the days of Moses, and he said, let my people go. And they said, we're going to let those people go. We're going to let them go. He said, the spirit of death, listen to me. The spirit of death is going to flow upon this land. And your firstborn will be killed. And then you know what he did? You know what Moses did while that spirit was floating in the air at night and he heard the cries of the people? They saw their children instantly, bodies taken away, instantly go limp, dead on arrival, dead. God told him to eat the bitter roots, the bitter herbs. We are told to eat certain herbs and leaves and trees during the time of death. But see, we don't talk about that. We feel because we've integrated as a culture worldwide, we can eat and do everything that we're supposed to do. But we are not supposed to do that. Mr. Research, talk to me.
Let me interject this for everybody listening. Just you get a full international understanding of what Shirley just said. Sometimes I wish some of our white American cousins would just understand we're all part of America. Look at England. England is Wessex. Irish people, Scottish people, Wessex.
Mhm.
When you look at the people in Lower London versus the people in Brighton versus the people in Surrey versus the people in Manchester, yes, they all have their little group and cliques, but at the end of the day, they are England. They are Wessex. So sometimes I wish that we here in America would get the understanding to get off of the division stuff, to get off of looking at us so separate. Because when you have a virus or a crisis like this, or even a Pearl Harbor war, you're going to forget all these little indifferences. Here's my last point, and I don't mean to upset people who are not ADOS, who are not Black, but let me make this thing that I say in speeches all the time. If a Russian person, and this really happened, if a Russian spy is able to use their white skin and hide amongst you and really want to do you harm, and at the same time march with you against your Black American friends, please remember that Russian looks like you but doesn't really care about you like your ADOS Black American family that you may disagree with. Just realize we're here at every war. And the same thing is true for some people who are Black. Everybody is not necessarily for America. There's people who come over here and pretend. There's people who come over and use their skin and get pieces of a Negro college fund. They nowhere near Black. One of the famous people who did it was an Indian guy with Black skin. My point in bringing all this up is when crisis comes about, hey, Americans, let's forget we have these little problems.
Right.
Let's remember that we're Americans, because as we start to die off, other people will come in, just like North Africa. Remember North Africa, everybody? After the French left, here come the Arabs, and they've taken over North Africa and kicked out all the North Africans. Let's not have that happen here with our little petty infighting. That's what I just want to say.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Go, AD, you want to say something?
I do. This has been so huge on my heart. And my sister, you know, she had 4 boys of her own, then she adopted 3 kids, 2 special needs with fetal alcohol syndrome and an African American boy. I happen to be white. This, you know, this goes to my heart. This is how God created us. We are not meant to be separate. We are meant to be together fighting these things. And this is what we have to do. We have to forget, you know, like Mr. Research said, all this other stuff. We may not agree on every tiny thing, but oh my God, he means for us to be united in fighting this stuff. It's real.
It's absolutely real. I'm going to play, I won't say devil's advocate, but I want to say this to both of you. You realize, both of you, that what we're dealing with is the fact that man has disobeyed God. And man has disobeyed the rules of the land. They have forgotten their fellow man. And I'm going to go back to America. I believe, now again, this is my opinion. I'm going to put that Shirley card up, news alert, the Bible of Shirley. I believe that the man of this earth in America are cursed. And why America is cursed? Because what it has done to the slaves. It has not asked God for forgiveness for enslaving a people, a nation of people, and then transforming these people into a new form of slavery. Instead of having to call slave, it's called privatized prisons. Instead of taking care of the people who are already here, you've allowed other cultures to come in, and now they're dominating, they're getting sick, they're infecting your people, and you've got 80% of the people in LA homeless and 50% nationally. You've got people telling me and emailing me personally that Black people who cannot have habitation, in order to stay in a house or find a warm space, they'd rather allow themselves to be infected with AIDS. Are you people listening to me? You can look these articles up. They'd rather be infected with AIDS instead of being a healthy body. You have Black men and women who say, I cannot deal with life. I emotionally and mentally am not sound to pay my bills, to go ahead and go to school, electric, light, and gas, keep a roof over my head, pay my taxes, pay a car note, take care of my girlfriend or my boyfriend. They can't deal. So you know what they do? They take a rap. This all ties together, people. The virus and the mental illness that are coming upon us is a plague from God saying, we ain't got our lives right. We ain't got our lives right.
Can I?
We have allowed, let me just finish my thought. We have allowed, we have allowed these other cultures of people who praise Buddha, who eat rats, who eat bats, salamanders. Listen to me. They eat wolves. Listen to me. They eat wolves. These are things that God has told us. You are to leave those types of animals alone. They're scavengers. Now, scavengers mean they scrape the land. They eat any kind of thing, anything like shrimps. We're not even supposed to eat shrimps. Shrimps, let me finish my thought. Shrimps are like roaches. Y'all need to write this down. What do you mean shrimps are roaches? I ain't eating no roaches. Shrimps are roaches because shrimps clean the bottom of the ocean. That's why they go deeply in the ocean to get them. You think they're gonna run out? You're gonna run out of no shrimp. You'll never stop seeing roaches and water bugs. These are low crawling animals and living beings, not beings, but living sea urchins that God has said we are not supposed to eat. And now you have Chinese people who have been eating dogs. You just saw them eating rats. And I just told you they eat peacocks. They are eating porcupines. And we are basically saying, well, you know what? We need to all understand this is just the way of life and living. This que sera living? Oh, no. You need to stop that. You need to have some discipline. You need to pray. You need to meditate. You need to quiet your mind and stay away from the fools and the foolishness. And just rebuke those people in the name of Jesus. Rebuke the evil.
I do too.
Rebuke the people with the corrupt and abrupt minds. These people's minds are gone. And America has not done that. And so because of that, that God has his own way of purging and cleaning us out. Because you remember the slaves that came into this country were the strong Negro, because they were Negroes on that boat that just didn't make it. They couldn't get their minds together. They said, where I'm going? They shackled them up, laid them slab by slab like pieces of hot dogs in a package, laid side by side in the ships, tacked left and right. And the ones that made it, that are descendants of slaves, you are beautiful, empowering people, but we have been neglected by government and we're not doing anything from it. Go ahead, Mr. Research.
Okay. And I want to say the other side of what Shirley's saying. Let's talk about China. Clinton gave China all of those union jobs. Said he was going to retrain everybody, him and Gore. All that good stuff. He gave this guy all this leeway. Okay. So let's just talk about China for a minute. What has China done for the Chinese people? How have they improved? They haven't. This guy is now emperor for life. Yeah. So as presidents come and go, this guy is going to be just like Queen Elizabeth. He's going to be around, and he's going to pass it to his boy, and he's going to be emperor for life. So let's just talk about China for a minute, as Shirley just explained it for America. Chinese people ain't benefited. You got over there stealing intellectual property. Anytime somebody create a product, oh, let's go over to mass produce it in China. Why would I do that? Yep. Because they're going to take my product, they're going to mass produce it on the back end and sell it to Russia and everything on that side. And within 5 years, my product is going to be obsolete. Where if I had to just kept it here. Yeah. You see my point? Yeah. So people got to understand China ain't even benefit off NAFTA. We have not benefited off this globalization. What this virus has proven is that we have endangered ourselves now. Now it's hard for us to isolate ourselves. And why do we endanger ourselves in the first place? I'm going to quote Ross Perot, whether you like him or not. Ross Perot said to Al Gore, why do you want to create NAFTA? Why would you not just give it to the black communities and the poor brown communities on 75 cents on the dollar? Why would you take it over there? And what we've done, ladies and gentlemen, we went so global that something like a simple disease, I hope they cure this, but something like a simple disease can knock us out worse than Pearl Harbor. And while we're playing around with the I hope spirit, we're relying on the prayers of Edie, Shirley, myself, to try to rectify, and this goes to Shirley's point again, to try to rectify what man keeps wanting to mess up. Hey, Hillary Clinton, why are you over in Egypt messing with those Egypt people? Leave them alone. Hey, Hillary Clinton, you ain't finished Egypt yet. Why are you over in Libya messing with these Libya people?
Right.
Wait a minute. You haven't even finished Libya. Why are you over in Syria? Okay, Hillary, you going to resign? You just created 3 wars. This is the type of stupid stuff we have to stop getting off the black-white stuff. Stop getting off the Democrat, conservative. We got to start looking at some things for what it is. Hey, look, me and so can argue about that later. For right now, how about we don't even be involved in what's going on over there? How about we bring that stuff back in-house? NAFTA was created so some of our fellow Americans could go get tax havens. Because remember, the idea was, well, we're going to go out to India. We're going to create our company for 4 years, and then we'll bring it back in-house and we'll pay the taxes. Well, 4 years turned to 8. And then by the time Obama came, the whole thing was, well, we want to come back, but we don't want to pay the taxes. Right. See, it don't matter whether it's on Democrat side or Republican side. We got to stop playing these games and start focusing on what's going to benefit our children. Now, Edie, Shirley, and myself, our children, got to speak a foreign language just to get a job sometimes. That's what's crazy. But we did it to ourselves with the infighting.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Edie, what do you want to say?
Oh, it's so true. I mean, it goes back to God and the Constitution, period, because talking about wars, Constitution, the whole idea, the founders said we were not supposed to be involved in all these foreign entanglements. That's what they called it. And we're not supposed to be doing all this stuff. It's taking our money. It's robbing our coffers. It's robbing us. I mean, it's crazy, the whole thing. I mean, they've taken every principle and turned it on its head and, run everything backwards. It's just crazy.
And, the interesting part to me, Edie, is that there's an irresponsibility that America has had upon this. They've not been responsible in their action that they've done to their fellow man and to their black colonists, the descendants of slaves that are here, and not being responsible and trying to work and create legislation to changing and clean up our inner community, our inner cities. Instead, we've filtrated all these other cultures of people, and they come with their religions, they come with their wars, they come with their problems, and they come with their eating habits. Listen, people, they don't wash their hands. A lot of these cultures of people, what's that one culture, maybe Mr. Researcher, or maybe you guys know, y'all tell me, they shake hands with one hand and not the other, because the other hand they wipe themselves with.
Muslims.
Yes. Yep. They don't. I don't know if it's the left or the right. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you need to look it up. They don't shake hands. You go to reach that hand, you might be left or right handed. You think they're gonna pull that opposite hand out? No, because they wash themselves with one and they wipe themselves with the others. That means that one that they don't shake your hand with, it still is used. Where does it touch? It touches everything else. See, this is what Mr. Research just said. He said, look, we should have not been working with these people. Edie said we should have not, just be honest. And now they come here in America and they don't respect our infrastructure. The Constitution again says, we the people, in order for a more perfect union, establish justice and domestic tranquility. We stop it there because domestic tranquility is not happening. It is not happening. The preamble is not being enforced. The Constitution was derived from the Bible. If you don't identify that we are in a spiritual warfare, if you don't identify the energy of the action that is going on in your town, in your city, in your state, you are awoken today. I want you to wake up so you do have an understanding. I demand you to wake up. I demand you to be alert. I demand you to not be sleeping at the wheel and throwing stones, but hold government accountable and pound on the doors of Congress and say, get these people off the street. Do right by your own American people first. Instead, these people coming here and we're eating bats and rats and roaches. Go ahead, Mr. Research.
You know what? And I just want to reiterate this once again. just to make it a global thing and not just an Asian thing. Look, let's talk about the guy who was marching with the tiki torches and his feeling toward black people. This one guy, his name was Kaskiski or something like that. He was upset that they found out who he was. Well, he was actually a Russian guy who had come over as a student. Well, wait a minute. You're not even part of this black-white feeling or discussion. You just got to the country a couple of years ago to go to school. What are you marching for? Here's my point that I say to all Americans. Beware of the people who you feel comfortable with who look like you. A lot of times they can be pretending. Let's get back to the Chinese virus. Let me marry the two situations. Beware of people who say that they're down for America. They're not necessarily on that because you're relying on people at this moment to wear a mask. Let me be clear. You're hoping for the kindness of the person carrying the virus who hopes they're not going to die to be wearing a mask. When you go to Whole Foods and you're standing in that line, somebody sneezes. Person is 2 lanes away from you. Doesn't matter. You're still waiting in the line. Particles are in the air. You don't know. You're going to get some food from Whole Foods. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to make us really aware of who we are today versus who we think we are. The virus is moving at a rapid pace. You have Chicago, Arizona, 2 cases in Southern California, the one guy in Seattle, and those people in Alaska, and somebody else. Oh, what is it, Virginia? You got those cases here now. You got 14 days, ladies and gentlemen, before you hear how those cases may or may not explode. Let's hope that it doesn't, but this infighting, it ain't gonna help.
It definitely does not help. I got another video I want you guys to see. This video is talking about what we should and should not be eating. What we should and should not be eating. Now you may say, "Hey, we can eat the lay of the land." Can we? Can we? Because if we don't talk about what we can and what we cannot eat, we're not going to have a clarification of understanding how that plague came about from disobedience from God. This is disobedience. Now, just hear this gentleman's version, and we'll talk it through.
What does the Bible say about eating meat? What is the purpose of clean and unclean animals? And did the food laws change in the New Testament? It's time to unlearn the lies. Hey, welcome to Unlearn. My name is Lex, and I'd like to invite you to join us each week as we unlearn the lies and dig deeper into the truth of God's Word. Now let's get started. Many Christians believe that the food laws in the Bible have been abolished and that we can now eat anything we want. They often say the laws concerning clean and unclean animals were only for the Jews and no longer apply to believers today. But what does the Bible really say about this? First, I want to look at what the Bible says about clean and unclean animals. Then we'll examine what the New Testament says about the food laws. The food laws are broken up into 4 categories: land animals, sea creatures, birds, and creeping things. Each of these sections contain instructions about how to determine what is clean and unclean. Although some animals are listed specifically, the Bible does not provide us with a full list of clean and unclean animals, but it does give us instructions on how to determine which animals can be eaten. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, "These are the animals which you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth. Among the animals, whatever divides the hoof, having cloven hooves and chewing the cud, that you may eat. Nevertheless, these you shall not eat among those who chew the cud or those that have cloven hooves. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves, is unclean to you. The rock hyrax, because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves, is unclean to you. The hare, because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves, is unclean to you. And the swine, though it divides the hoof, having cloven hooves, yet does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Their flesh you shall not eat, and their carcasses you shall not touch. they are unclean to you. The Bible specifically mentions swine as being unclean, but the prophet Isaiah also had this to say about eating swine. I have stretched out my hands all day long to a rebellious people who walk in a way that is not good, according to their own thoughts, a people who provoke me to anger continually to my face, who sacrifice in gardens and burn incense on altars of brick, who sit among the graves and spend the night in the tombs, who eat swine's flesh and the broth of abominable things in the vessels. God calls us rebellious for eating swine, and he says we are provoking him to anger for doing so. Then in chapter 66, he says that those who eat swine will be destroyed. Eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, says the Lord. Did God change his mind about eating pig? Keep these verses in mind as we continue. Now let's look at which sea creatures we're allowed to eat. Those you may eat of all that are in the water, whatever in the water has fins and scales, whether in the seas or in the rivers, that you may eat. But all in the seas and in the rivers that do not have fins and scales, all that move in the water or any living thing which is in the water, they are an abomination to you. They shall be an abomination to you. You shall not eat their flesh, but you shall regard their carcasses as an abomination. Whatever in the water does not have fins or scales, that shall be an abomination to you. So the only sea creatures we can eat are the fish that have fins and scales. This means no crab, lobster, squid, shrimp, or catfish.
Let me stop for a second. Mr. Research.
Hold on. Yeah, I got to get in here. Ladies and gentlemen, swayfish does not have scales or gills. Tilapia does not have scales or gills. Don't believe me. Go look up the fish yourself. Okay. Some of the things people eat is the catfish of that country. Okay. Some things you guys get told is okay is trash fish of that country. Okay. So you don't have to believe me. Go look yourself. Hey, I even could be wrong. The point that this gentleman is saying, make sure it has scales, make sure it has gills. If not, if it's breathing through its mouth, if it's breathing through two little nose sections, those are not gills. Gills are on the side. So I'm just letting y'all know.
Before I go, what about the hoofs? You know, they're eating camel as well. That's the animal that you guys see in Saudi Arabia with the two humps on his back and the hoofs. Edie or Mr. Research, what's your take on that one?
Well, I guess, I've been thinking about that some too. And I know that especially like rodents and rats and those things, I mean, it's obvious they carry diseases, the bats, the same thing. A little more difficult, I mean, that was the one that jumped out at me is pork and, pigs. I mean, how many of us eat pork chops and all that? There have been a lot of diseases, remember swine flu and stuff like that. So there's obviously problems, but yeah, I mean, I think this guy has a point. I mean, I guess the big one that I was thinking of earlier, which I saw as a problem, and not because I had some inward bigotry about it, was tattoos and piercings. Because when I saw that at the beginning of all this internet stuff, they were going to use tattoos as a way of marking people and money and all this. And all of a sudden, the light bulb went on in my head, and I thought, I personally had objected to it for a long time because I just thought, well, God must have known what he was talking about when he spoke against that. And then when I saw what they were going to do with it, I thought, oh my gosh, here it is. So a lot of these things that we've kind of poo-pooed and looked at in scripture and said, well, we're a New Testament, we're under grace, so we don't have to worry about that. Well, look what's coming around to hit us in the face.
Let's continue.
I used to eat all those things when I was in ignorance to God's instructions. But once I understood that God forbids those things, I stopped eating them. Now let's look at the birds God says are unclean for food. And those you shall regard as an abomination among the birds. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the vulture, the buzzard, the kite, and the falcon after its kind. Every raven after its kind, the ostrich, the short-eared owl, the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, the little owl, the fisher owl, and the screech owl, the white owl, the jackdaw, and the carrion vulture, the stork, the heron after its kind, the hopi, and the bat. There are large...
Okay, let's go back. Mr. Research, let's look at this scripture real quick. You were talking earlier about this woman that ate bats. What do you think when we read this? What comes to mind, Mr. Research, when we know that, people, you're not supposed to eat owls, you're not supposed to eat bats, but people are doing it. People are doing it.
Well, because here's the thing. Some people grow up on a culture of something for so long, they never question it. And the whole part of being a mature adult is that you evolve and you advance yourself. So just because you may be an Irish person and you grew up on shepherd's pie doesn't mean you're really supposed to be eating it. And you need to evolve. And this is what I get. This is why I go back to the white-black dynamic. I try to point out to people that when they sit up here and point fingers, especially at black folks, you got to remember, you as a non-black person, you might be doing the same thing. You as a Latin person, you might be doing the exact same thing, but you don't see it as the same, because that means you would have to point the finger at self. So there's a lot of things, like when I was living in Surrey, England, I used to have to point out to Irish people, y'all do some of the same stuff black folks do. Y'all just don't call it that. Oh no, what no, bro. Look, you guys fight every day. Ever since I've been you guys as friends, you guys go to pubs and we seem like we fight every time. Not us fight, but you guys get into a fight. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you guys fight more than I've ever seen. Or if I'm over in Romania, the darn Russians over there. The Russians look at the Ukrainians as the Mexicans of that region. But the darker skinned, olive skinned Romanians, who are kind of like gypsy in over the Count Dracula area, they have more respect for than they do the very light skinned Ukrainians. And nobody in that region really likes the Armenians. It's crazy. But people will look back over at these black folks in America and say, yeah, but you guys, no, let's stop that. Let's stop. Let's go back to being united. It's all about being a family. It's all about building a legacy. And let's focus on that. And let's get off this other stuff. Go ahead, you guys.
And the way we get off that other stuff is also remembering that the way family can heal is when family admits wrong. And the wrongs that have been put upon the African-American descendants of slaves through government imposing EB-5 visas, allowing these Chinese people, because we call this the Chinese disease. I'm sorry. I know that may not be politically correct, but it came out of China. It came out of China. And we, as a Christian, Judeo-Christian nation of people in America, these people don't have the same spiritual beliefs. They don't, have the same food eating habit beliefs. And they're saying that this virus comes from eating animals that have been abandoned and it's an abomination against God. These animals are abomination against God. And so because of that, we are tying this to a plague that could be upon us. So even if you do have this mask on your face, all these other cultures of people say, well, this is normal. This is not normal. Do not let people lie to you. This is a news alert that we want to wake you up that you guys have communication. Share this video. Get the likes buttons up. Get the likes and start to share and subscribe. No matter what group and platform you're on, share it on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your Snapchat. Share it in the groups, in your groups, your private groups, and break this video down as we break it down. You need to break it down, but you need to understand. I personally believe this is a curse that God has out there because we are not right with God. In America, for those who are in power, who may listen to this, anybody in the White House, Mr. Trump administration, any of these other people, you guys are allowing these people to come to our country now. Russia's cut them off. China's cut them in, meaning that they've stopped planes from going out. And now the liberals, the Hillary Clintons, the liberal progressive, the Me Too people, the ones that have adopted their children, the one that has embraced their lifestyle and engulfed in their family, are saying, no, 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 let them come to me, let them come to me. They're wanting to get visas. They're going to push that EB-5 visa faster through because they got connections. The problem with America is that we don't even run our inner cities, our businesses, our schools, and our offices. When you go and get your taxes done, or if you go and you want to check on maybe having a title or a deed done, or you go to the social services, or if you go to the court offices, they're all ran by these people. And they intertwine, and now they're cutting ropes, and they're going behind the scenes, and you guys don't even know this is affecting America. And why? Because America has failed by not taking care of their own first. They've not put America first, because that's an evil thing. So fast forward, we have this disease, and we have people who have come here, and they've normalized eating foods the Bible has told you that you are not supposed to eat. Let's keep watching.
Hold on. Before you do that, let me just say this. Also, for you people who think what Shirley is saying is a bit harsh, I want you to politely consider this. Let's say you get a lot of people over here and there becomes some type of outbreak. Some of the people who said that they love America are going to leave and go back to their home country. Some people who said that they never been over to Italy or whatever, and that's their grandmama's land. Guess what? They're gonna they're gonna use that option and get up out of here. Some people, and so my point is, don't let other people risk what happens here in America, because some people like us ADOS people, unfortunately, because of slavery, our flag was beaten out of us. We have no other spot that we're familiar with. We don't have the grandmom's country. We're not like the British slave guys who are allowed to get educated and keep their flag. We wasn't like that. So when they talk about, well, something's going to happen, well, I can go back to my Ubu, or I can go back. We have no understanding of that. So I just want people to understand, when we talk about this stuff, make sure you understand that some of our Americans, like when the planes hit, there were some of our Persian Americans in the Hollywood area. When bin Laden did what they went and jumped on those private planes quick and went back to Iran. There's a lot of people who say they're down for America, but when something happens, they sometimes are the first ones to get out of here. Sorry about that, Shirley.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And the reason why they're the first ones to get out of here, because they can. You have to understand, in Africa, they speak over 500 different languages. But when the colonists went to Africa and brought us here as commoditized goods and trades, they beat that out of you. They shaved the woman's head. They raped her. They had her mate with other strange men, a big man, another big man, and they created big people. I had a friend, and again, this is no tea, no shade. This is just history. I had a friend who said to me, Shirley, why these people from the South why these men, why they find these big black men? When I'm in LA, I don't even see them. How did they put them in the league? How did they put them in football and baseball? Because we have cultivated with these other cultures of people. That sounds racist, but it's true. If you look at a black person and then look at an El Salvadorian, and they fell in love and they have a child, you are not going to get the same brew of person as you would Bubba from Mississippi. You just ain't going to get that same type of person. You're just not. And so you have a cross culture of people, culture-wise and food-wise, when we're talking about this virus that is now in this country because of the corruption and the disobedience that we believe from God that has told you, don't eat these animals. Woes be unto you. Let's continue on.
Stork, the heron after its kind, the hopi, and the bat. There are a large number of birds that we are allowed to eat, and we're only prohibited from eating these certain birds. Notice they're the birds of prey, such as eagles, hawks, kites, falcons, and owls, as well as the scavengers, such as vultures, buzzards, and ravens. It also forbids ostrich, stork, heron, and bat. I've never met anyone who wants to eat a vulture or bat. So the list of unclean birds doesn't really seem to be the main problem people have.
Oh, but he's wrong. When he packed up, he said something that he's wrong in. Listen to this.
Forbids ostrich, stork, heron, and bat. I've never met anyone who wants to eat a vulture or bat.
Have we just not seen people who eat vultures and bats? Have we evolved from where this man said, I've never seen it? Well, guess what? 2020, we got people eating vultures and bats and ostrich. Let's listen to this. It's ravens, buzzards. You guys, are you listening?
Buzzards and ravens. It also forbids ostrich, stork.
Can we eat ostrich eggs then? A lot of gourmet restaurants, they crack those ostrich eggs and they have the best yolk, we were told. I didn't know you can't eat ostrich. You say, well, I don't eat ostrich, but you don't know those egg yolks are huge, and people bake cakes and we go to these restaurants and they use things that you just don't know what's in them. You just don't know what's in them. People, you have to be conscious spiritually, physically, and mentally. And another thing that we don't talk about is energy. The energy disbursement of people in your life can oppress you, can cause you to come down and cause you to become sickly. I want to see you healthy. I want you to stay conscious, and I want you to hold government accountable for allowing this virus right now, because we're not upset enough to start pounding on some doors and saying, Mr. Congressman, why haven't you shut them planes down? Why have you not stopped these people from coming? Why have you not quarantined maybe Chinatown? Because why? That's offensive. That's racist. You're stepping way over the boundaries. You're going way overboard, lady. Wait a minute. Come on. It's not that bad. Is it? Listen to what Mr. Research and what Edie just said. These people can cough on you and you're dead in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Let's continue.
Heron, and bat. I've never met anyone who wants to eat a vulture or bat. So the list of unclean birds doesn't really seem to be the main problem people have with the food laws in the Bible. The main issue seems to be with shellfish and pig. The Bible also gives us another list of unclean land animals concerning the creeping and crawling things. These also shall be unclean to you. Among the creeping things that creep on the earth, the mole, the mouse, and the large lizard after its kind, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the sand reptile, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. I've heard people argue that the Old Testament laws have been abolished or that they no longer apply to Christians. They conveniently say this about the commandments they don't want to keep. However, there are a number of Old Testament laws that Christians do believe we should obey. For example, the laws concerning sexual immorality are typically enforced by most Christians. However, there's a growing number of Christians who now reject the laws concerning homosexuality. Homosexual proponents like to point out that Christians don't obey the food laws, and they indicate their hypocrisy for saying that homosexuality is an abomination, while they're eating unclean animals, which the Bible also calls an abomination. This is a very good point to consider as we look at these things. Can we condone one abomination and forbid another? If the Bible calls eating shrimp an abomination, how can we approve of that behavior while condemning homosexuality? When the Bible says something is an abomination, it's saying that those things are going against the created purpose.
Okay, now he's tied that to understanding the whole homosexual movement. I don't really want to go into that conversation because he does break that down, and then he comes back to tell you that it's all evil and corrupt. But I want to stay within the food. I want to stay within this virus. I want to thank you guys for staying with me so long. My name is Shirley Hussar. We're with Urban Game Changers and the ADOS Foundation of Black People. This is an alert that there is that movement of the coronavirus that is moving rapidly through the city. Mr. Research is on board. Edie from Facebook is on board. And we are talking about how China has not taken full responsibility of this virus in its content of allowing people to continue to travel abroad. Mr. Research brought up, what about the private planes? You shut down the main planes, but the private planes are still taking off. The people who had gotten infected are out of China. They may be in Russia, but Russia has cut their borders down. Now they're coming here, and many of you are not awakened to the fact that they're in your community. And another thing, let me say this to many of you guys out there. You eat these foods. Listen to me. You eat these foods, and they're in our community. And what we're finding out is that you don't know what's in them. You know how they take those sauces and they take that chicken, you eating sweet and sour pork, and you're eating orange chicken, and they cut and dice that meat up, and you don't know what kind of meat you eating. The man just said we're not supposed to eat salamanders, and they all said, well, that tastes like pork. Salamanders, crocodiles, camel, all these animals but they eat them. They eat bats. And now this disease that is upon us right now, that we're hearing that they're talking about, is plaguing our communities. Mr. Research, what's your take?
I'm going to have to leave in about 2 more minutes, but I just want to say this, you guys. Look, it does not matter whether you agree. Mother Nature is hard to fight. So it doesn't matter whether you take the information serious or not. What you don't want to do is be surprised. What you don't want to do is wake up the next morning and be like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to take stuff serious. And our elected officials are taking stuff way too lightly.
Oh,
I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. It's just way too light. You got people right now talking about stuff that don't matter. 8,000 people are infected over there, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Russia said, forget talking. Nobody comes in. France is infected. I don't know about England yet, but come on, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a joke. 200 people dead. This thing only started, what, the 27th, 28th, maybe the 25th? Jesus. So, you know, and let me say something to people who were asking about the coronavirus thing. There's alpha and beta. And I just want to get you guys the correct information, because somebody said they saw it on a Lysol bottle. Bottle. You got to understand coronavirus, and this is why Shirley keeps calling it Chinese virus, because a coronavirus, there are several types of coronavirus. There's NL63, OC43, HKU1, 2298. And what you got to understand, one of the reasons Shirley keeps saying China virus is just like Edie when she said about the MERS. That's Middle Eastern. See, everybody names it from wherever it came from or who discovered it. One of the two. And that's why she's calling it MERS, because it's a Middle Eastern breathing type of thing. But what is a corona by definition? Okay. There's alpha, gamma, beta, delta. And by definition, it's the crown-like spikes on the surface. That's what makes it. It's a
like a crown.
Right. It's a definite. Yeah, Edie can help me on that after I jump off. So it's like even MERS is a form of that. SARS is a form for that. And now Edie will correct me though, but I always looked at that as a coughing, breathing type of symbolism, because that's what to me connects SARS and MERS all together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But what we got to understand, let's not just call it a coronavirus. Let's stick with what Shirley is saying and call it a China virus, because that's the only thing that's going to get those people. Well, we don't want our image attached to. And this, if we're able to survive it, this will have Chinese officials say, hey, you're going to get fined for cooking up that python. You're going to get fined for doing that dog like that. You're going to get fined because we don't need another outbreak, and we don't need our image attacked as Chinese people. So I'm down with Shirley call it the China virus, because we just can't call it the corona. That's disguising what's really going on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And lastly, to our Chinese Americans, nobody is being racist. Nobody hates you. We just want you to take it serious too, as Americans.
Yes.
As Americans, don't put China first just because your grandma's from there and you got an affinity and love for your culture. I get that, but you're living here now. You said you wanted to be here, you're born here, or whatever the case may be. You need to act like you want to roll with what's going on, because I'm going to quote this Mexican guy. When he found out that people were manipulating the system and they were from Mexico, he said, I came out here in 84 and I can't stand these Mexicans. I said, why you say that, man? Mm-hmm. He said, because I did it the right way. And what these guys are doing is wrong. I need for my Chinese Americans to have that same type of feeling. Hey, I'm down with China. I'm down with my culture. But hey, Yu Xingping, you are the emperor. You got this. You are king for life. You need to get on this and fix it. You need to take accountability. Not to Shirley's point, keep letting people in, and we're going to see if Edie can handle it for the first 21 days. We're going to see if Shirley's stomach is going to turn rotten. Whoa. What happens if they get to the fish, ladies and gentlemen? Y'all ain't thought about that, huh? What happens if it gets to our particular birds over here? Y'all ain't thought of that. Shut it down. It's not about being racist and hating nobody. It's about protecting so you don't have a oops moment. And next thing you know, it's hard to find people walking around because everybody's hiding in their house. That's all I want to say.
You know, Mr. Research, before you go, let me ask you this. What do we do, and what would you say to people saying, look, this is part of their culture, this is part of their delicacy? Because I truly believe, this is just, maybe it's hypothetical, you know, we get all these frozen foods coming into this country, and it's easy to clean that meat and say it's chicken, but they label it a certain way to let each other know that's not chicken, it's dog. It's not dog, it's rats. It's not rats, it's camel. You know, because it can easily be, take the skin off, take the bones off, and make it so you just have the meat or the fat or whatever you see, so it looks like chicken, because that's the main bird they say, or meat they say, so people think they're eating chicken. Should we go eat at these restaurants? Should we hang around these people? Before you leave, give us some takeaways, because see, as you see right here, they say that these are delicacies. They've got these chicken feet, and you don't know if those are real chicken feet. They got these other things that they do. These delicacies that they do. Talk to me. What's the takeaway of what we should be conscious of being around and doing?
Well, here's why I disagree with my fellow conservatives. There needs to be regulations on things. You guys, you know, we're so global. We're so global that we're trusting people to do the right thing. It's like a person with the virus right now standing next to Edie Edie's trusting they're going to wear a mask. Maybe they don't want to feel shame. Maybe they're just going to not wear it because it makes them feel targeted. But now they're subjecting Edie to possible contamination just because they don't want to feel shame. And the same thing is with this food question you're asking me. Sometimes there need to be these regulatory things, because if you're not able to pay the cost to be the boss, to pay the taxation or the tariffs to get your product in the country, how about you just keep it over there and try to maximize your profit there? Maybe having it here is not necessarily good.
Whoa. You're saying segregation. I thought we were all supposed to work together.
Man,
we're all Americans. What are you talking about?
Look, I can't do it because
why?
Because one slip up causes a bunch of problems. One person in China got infected and killed 14 medical workers within a day. No, 2 days. Within 2 days. That's not funny. Oh, you know what? Let me correct myself. Infected. This what I'm only going to say what I know to be true. Infected the 14 people within 2 days. But now we got over 200 dead. So I'm going to speculate that some of those people didn't make it. So we need higher regulation in reference to food. I'm talking about to your food question.
Right.
We need higher regulation on that, because there's no reason for Donnie to make some soup at his shack in China and have the ability to send it over here and see what happened through eBay. Let's keep that honest. You know, because reality, what's stopping people from Amazon and eBay? These people making home remedies and they're shooting through. So the only thing Shirley Huzar saw was that it was $5.99 as opposed to this other person who was $6.99. There's no regulation on that person sending you that tea, that matcha tea. Where did it come from? Where's the regulations? But Shirley like, it's 60 cents cheaper. I'll just wait an extra week for it. But we got to stop this globalization, because it's not helping us. The whole intent that Clinton started ain't helping us. And to be honest, it ain't even helping China, because like I said, we done gave away all these jobs to India and China. Nobody seems to have benefited but India. India's situation is thriving. Matter of fact, let me throw another sideline observation. So the Indian guy owns Google. Ladies and gentlemen, and he just built 2 universities in India. If that guy decides to take Google and take it overseas to India, what are you going to do? You're not going to stop him. Half the people who here in Silicon Valley are of a Pakistani, well, not half, 1/4 are Pakistani or Indian descent. You'll have a competing Silicon Valley. And you know what that's going to do to San Francisco Silicon Valley? Kill it. And once they kill it, then all these homes that's overpriced, they're going to drop right back down. See, we have too many scenarios where things can tilt one way dramatically. And the virus is showing you proof of that. There's too many scenarios that it can tilt. And then everything you thought, oh, these houses will never go down. Oh my God, nobody wants to live out there because there's too many Chinese people or whatever. Edie?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the goal of globalization. They keep talking about how in the markets that there would be all this volatility. The reason why is because they've taken away regulations in order to allow globalism, which subjects us all to the exact vulnerable scenario you're talking about. And they don't care at this point. So we have to make them care. We have to draw this to their attention and say, we are not willing to put up with it. It's bad. I didn't even want the USMCA.
Well, let me ask you
You
this,
know?
both of you guys, before, and I know research, if you have to go, you have to go. What I don't understand is why the people, meaning us here collaboratively, the people who are online, the people who follow us or follow other groups, why are they being more responsible in knowing who their legislators are, your city councilman, your congressional person, your assembly person, your water board, your school board? You guys are quick to know who the president is, the mayor, the vice mayor, the secretary of state. Why aren't people more conscious of saying, in front of my phone, I got all these people, and I'm gonna start blowing them up saying, block the borders, block these people, stop the planes, don't let them in, don't let them in. If enough of us did that, it would shift the energy of the media from talking about themselves and celebrities and deal with the crises of health and sanitation, because they don't wash their hands. They don't believe in the same culture as we are living in, and how we keep our habitational lifestyles living in the Western civilization. Now we are becoming a third world country. Is that the way America should be, Edie?
Not at all. Not at all. There needs to be a movement. I admired the Yellow Vest movement because it was people of all backgrounds rising up against globalism. We need that here. We need it here. And ground zero is this disease stuff.
It is ground zero, is the disease stuff. Me and Mr. Research, a couple of us had talked about the pods. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but they're building pods for people to live in. That's like the size of a bunk bed. And you live in it, and in Orange County area, they're going to be charging $1,000 for you to live in a pod. And see, I remember I did those videos where I went downtown and I showed you guys how they have these people stacked and living all on top of each other, like in China. China has, they both basically, as a real estate agent and as a developer, they told me, thank you, Mr. Research, for coming on. You guys make sure you subscribe and follow Mr. Research. He adds so much value and so much content to our videos, and we must support him and do the same. In China, their lifestyle, listen to me, that it all ties together. It all ties together. Trust me. Their lifestyle is living on top of each other. They'll have 2 or 3 families living in the size of a half of a garage. And this is what's happening in California, where they don't respect the development laws. And they used to say you had to have so much parking per square footage. Now they're saying if you want to build in your backyard, if you want to just have all these people stacked up on top of each other, you can do that. But if we do that, we're not washing our hands. In the state of California, they just voted laws so that you cannot take a bath and you cannot wash your clothes at the same time. That's against the law. And you're going to be limited to 50 gallons of water per month. Go ahead, Edie.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, when we lived in California, there were, if a drought would happen, they were concerned about water. Well, now there's been droughts, and so they've, put all these laws in place. And, when you do get rain, they want to tax the rainwater, and oh my God, it's gone crazy, you know. And they're capitalizing now on a lot of this stuff and using it to instead of to help us and to help people, they're using it to further all this globalist stuff. And we're working hard to tell everybody what the real truth is. And I'm glad that enough people, to a degree have woken up, but there's an awful lot of people who haven't.
They haven't.
And it just, we can't live in this deceptive atmosphere. We have to find a way to get people to really understand what the truth is, first of all. Second of all, I think a lot of people have been speaking up to their assembly people and stuff as much as they can. I know for me, I got to a place where I was just overwhelmed. I was doing everything I could, but the number of bills that the Democrats or whoever come up with, the globalist oriented people, almost overwhelms you, so that you just sit there and think, oh my God, they're still pushing for this, but we have to find a way. We just absolutely have to find a
We have to
way.
find a way to have our own voice as American people. We have to
Right.
find a way to put our agenda and our issues in our urban communities first, and our communities with what we have. If we find our minds and our lives focusing on other people's issues, we become a third world nation. We are not, we are first world. We do everything first. We're God and country and family. But what has happened is, I believe America is cursed because it's not taking care of its fellow man. It's not dealing with the homelessness and privatized prisons. It's not dealing with the families that are left out on the streets. We're taking other cultures' families and we give them housing. We let them eat foods that are ungodly and unsanctioned by God. They're against the scripture. If you agree or disagree, they have been told what we're not supposed to be doing, and we're doing it. And then we allow our children, unequally yoked, listen to me, to befriend these people. And the next thing you look up, your child's eating these strange foods that you didn't bring him up on. You didn't bring your child up on that food, but mom, you should try it too. Now you're eating the same food. You're trying their food because you thought, well, I'll just try it. I ain't Bible. I never was taught. I'm. Now look at you. Now look what has happened. He's interacting with those families. He's got a disease. See, in time, God will show himself. In time, God will bring things to your knowledge. I want you to hear about this. Is talking about food. Again, to them, there's nothing wrong with eating a bat and dog and cat and animals that we don't agree with. It's a delicacy. Fine China delicacy. And I want you to hear what this article has to say. This was of March of last year, so this is not an old article, but I want you to understand what's the difference between what they call fine China delicacy. Let's hear this.
If you are not Chinese and are unexpectedly offered a duck's tongue, the first, and very reasonable, question that may occur to you is not just how it should be eaten but why. A duck's tongue is a tiny, fiddly thing, devoid of meat, barely more than a few prongs of bone and cartilage encased in rubbery skin. Most Westerners are unlikely to find the duck's tongue on their plate. But in China, duck's tongues are a great delicacy, along with chicken's feet, goose webs, and a host of other marginal animal parts. The traditional Western view was that the Chinese ate lots of weird stuff, perhaps out of poverty and desperation. Around 1300, Marco Polo wrote, "They eat all sorts of flesh, including that of dogs and other brute beasts and animals of every kind which Christians would not touch for anything in the world." The lower orders do not scruple to eat all sorts of unclean flesh. Early Chinese immigrants to the United States were plagued by rumors that they ate rats. As recently as 2002, in a notorious article headlined, "Shop Fooey," the Daily Mail described Chinese food as the dodgiest in the world, created by a nation which eats bats, snakes, monkeys, bears' paws, birds' nests, sharks' fins, ducks' tongues, and chickens' feet.
You guys see that? You hear that? You hear that? This is their delicacy. And now it has filtrated into America. It has filtrated into America because of all these sanctions that they have broken and abandoned things that God has told them not to do. So I always say to you, be conscious and not get caught into the crossfire. Now, we're not being racist. This is not a personal attack against Chinese people. This is an attack towards a culture that they live in that is not coinciding with how we are as a first world nation people, as we are as descendants of the colonists and of colonist people. We were raised to be like this. This is not what God condoned. But yet we, over the decades, have seen what has happened when we disobey the laws of the land. Go ahead, Edie, what would you like to say?
Well, what I kind of need to say, I do need to leave, unfortunately,
I
but
appreciate that.
I really want to reconnect with you, Shirley, because I've got some ideas for the future, and you and I really need to work together because I've got some big ideas, and I think we could really benefit.
I appreciate that, Edie. Thank you so much for being on. You've shared
Thank
a lot of
you.
good information. You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean,
God
our
bless
family
you.
here, I think people are, we've been talking a lot about Black culture and Black livelihood. I know you're not Black, but you do support the Black community, and just tell them I'm going to pivot a little bit. We talk about white and Blacks and colonists. Tell them what you're feeling about what's happened upon the Black culture, and what do you think government's responsibility should be done, and as far as reparations and something set up to correct the wrongs.
I think it is huge. I mean, my feeling has been for a long time that I do feel a lot of efforts have been made to correct the wrongs of the past, you know. However, I do think that there is a huge need for racial reconciliation. That's really on my heart. I'm glad you brought it up because I guess I think a big thing that needs to happen in this country is a great awakening. I really do. I think the spiritual great awakening is going to be huge. A big part of that is racial reconciliation. And yes, I think there are steps that do need to be taken as far as, some degree of reparation, some degree of putting things right, setting things right. I don't know where it all could happen. I know that the government, I feel, needs to take the biggest step. They have money hidden off goodness knows where, you know. Taxpayers, I don't know to what extent they can help. I feel like just me as a regular middle class person, it sometimes think, where am I going to get the money to just help pastors or friends or, whoever. But yeah, I think the government, my goodness, they've got money hidden in all kinds of places. So I think they definitely should be taking steps.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. When it comes to the history of the slaves and the descendants of slaves, we're talking about a specific group of people on this channel. When I talk about ADOS as American Descendants of Slaves and foundational Black people going back to the Civil War, going back to prior to that, the Reconstruction of America. We're talking about Edie, I don't know how much history you know, but as you may or may not know, Lincoln, when he died, he was going to do a lot of things to reconcile the separation of Blacks and not treat them as unhumanely when we became emancipated. Unfortunately, they didn't tie wealth and opportunity with that. We still were enslaved today as we are now in other forms. And I think that the federal government and me being a Trump supporter and an advocate for the president, I will tell you that we need to have legislation where we sit down and clearly explain to people so people emotionally won't be so aroused and attacked, because there's lots of money. Like you said, you don't know. Me and you, we pay our taxes. We do, we do our part, but we do know everybody else is getting a check. We know everybody else keeps coming in here claiming rights to our good, to our outcome of our input. What's your take on that, Edie, as a Caucasian woman who?
Oh, well, it's huge. I mean, I was so upset by the fact that there was going to be, people coming from South America, Mexico, wherever, not even citizens, getting free educations while my son has to pay. Well, the opportunity actually did come up for him to do something that would be free, and it was during the Obama thing, and we ended up, not taking it. Um, I try to operate in integrity. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even if you offered it to me for free, I'd say to myself, that's not right. It's not right. This doesn't belong to me.
But you have to think in mind, Lyndon B. Johnson came on the scene as a president, and he created the Great Society. And what he did was he instilled all these governmental programs. And so now you have a generation where maybe some of the older generation says, you do have entrepreneurship, you have LLCs, you have S corporation, but now we have these governmental programs that are in America, a first world country, that is appealing not only to Americans to be lazy or to be dependent, because our culture of people, Black people, they stripped us of everything. We don't know what culture we're from. We don't know. There's over 500 languages plus in Africa. We don't know if we're from Leon. I can't say the name right. Nigeria, Ghana, all these different countries, right? Countries. We know we're just from West Africa, a large portion of it, because it's closer to getting that ship from point A to point B. But it's the fact that because of what the colonists has done to this culture of people, their generation, their descendants, has a disconnection, unlike the Chinese, who for the last 40, 60, 50, whatever decades have been flying back and forth and living in America under America's regime, under America's infrastructure, abusing the laws. Someone had talked about the EB-5 visas. They come here and they get these visas. Listen to people, subscribe, listen up, share this video, pay attention. We're providing you some good nuggets of knowledge, of truth. And we want you to break these videos down, because I want you to do your own homework and research and find other articles to support what we're trying to inform you about. Because if America doesn't each other, here's a lady, her name is Edie. She's one of my Facebook friends. She's Caucasian. She acknowledged there needs to be some type of reparations. There needs to be some type of compensations. That that the money is there, but we need to correct these people who can't help their own people. Because even though we say we help each other, we all know how this country works. The Chinese help Chinese. The Jews help Jews.
True.
Irish help Irish.
Yep.
I mean, Edie, tell me what's your thought on that one.
Oh, I absolutely think so. A big thing I've been praying for, and it happens to a degree in the Black community, like you're saying, banks building the community, Black-owned banks and everything to a degree. But I think, as you say, there is not, what shall we say, the inherited wealth is not the same as what you have in the Chinese community or among Jewish people or whoever. It's not starting on the same footing. So your point is absolutely well taken, that there has got to be something coming from some part of all that money, that Black budget, I don't know, wherever it is, the government, they've got it. If they have it, that they can fund this and create Clinton Foundation that, and oh my gosh, there's a way to do it. I personally feel that RICO laws should be happening right now, that's going after Clinton and all these people who are absolute corrupt criminals, and some of that money could go for that.
Explain what the RICO law is so people understand.
Well, RICO is basically a racketeering law. It was used against mafia. It was used against, similar racketeering type groups, to stop them financially from being able to continue their activities. And Hillary Clinton is obviously in that crowd, and many other people too, that are all wound up in this globalist criminal enterprise. Trump can go after him. There's no reason why he can't. He's got the power to do it. I think he's willing to do it. And I think it needs to happen. And yeah, I think a lot of that money could be used for reparations, and should be.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
It's there. It's there. It's a question of will. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with that. But don't you also agree it's a question of putting a right team of people who understand
Yes.
historical laws and working with African Americans who are boots on the ground. I'm not talking about
Mm-hmm.
Black people who work on campaigns and love the president and campaign. No. I'm not talking about people who are cheering candidates on. I'm talking about
Right.
people who understand historical facts and ramifications
Yes.
of those facts, and that they're
Yes, very
able to
much
lay
so.
it
And
out. Go ahead.
I think it's like so many issues, for a long time, these things have kind of always been in the dark somewhere, just like the Black Holocaust, Maafa 21, all these things, they're real. They need to be exposed. They need to be brought out because these are things that, as you say, have formed so much of the continuing cycle of abuse that has happened. And unless people are aware of it, it can't stop.
No, I think it can't stop, and it won't. We won't find a solution. See, solutions
Mm,
are tied to emotions. Solutions are tied through legislation and actions. And if
right.
the biggest problem, Edie, what you may not understand is that it is hard for us to work together. We have a big problem in the Black community of working together because everybody thinks they're the head person in charge. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to be the star. Everyone wants to have that picture with whatever leader that they prefer. If it's Hillary, if it's Biden, if it's President Trump,
Right.
if it, I got a picture with so and so. But see, picture taking, hat wearing, saying I hung out with whatever does not make a difference. You've got the
Mm-hmm.
Jews right now are going to have Candace Owen in California. None of the Jewish coalition people have ever reached out to me and said, Shirley, we want you to come speak. They've never reached
Wow.
out to any of the Black urban communities, but yet we've got these chosen, we call them in the Black community, chosen Negroes that
Mm,
white America has chosen to represent us, that we did not ask for their representation because they
mm-hmm.
don't connect with us. But here you are understanding the history and the plight and the pain. Why
Mm-hmm.
is that? Can you give me your take on that, ma'am?
Oh, easy explanation. I'm a person who has experienced abuse in her own life. So yeah, that's always been a part of the way that I've seen things. And also my parents very, clearly raised us not to be bigoted. We were not allowed. We could not say the N word in my home ever, ever. These were values that were taught to us as kids. And so it affected the way that we looked at the world, you know. But yeah, I mean, it comes out of my own background of, you know, um, being a kid in class who wasn't necessarily all that well liked, even though I did well in my studies, or whatever. But yeah, and it also comes from my Christian upbringing too. So,
So you see, you have a clear foundation of not only your spiritual beliefs, but also understanding the cultural vernacular of what went on
hmm
in the communities, of what you could say and not say that is offensive or not offensive. But there's a part
exactly.
that both of us are missing, and that is
hmm
legislation that has not made it clear to the world and to those who come into this country. And because of
Yeah.
that, we find in the Black community, I'm letting you know that these Chinese people, these immigrants, these illegal immigrants have come into our community. Now we have Chinese people eating soul food. We have Mexican people
hmm
selling soul food. And
hmm
if government allows them to be funded, but won't fund the descendant of the Black colonist child and slave descendants. And that's a problem. And we find
hmm
that a problem. And I think the more we have conversations like me and you and others who are out there, that we can at least discuss this, we can come up with legislations and have people like you be advocates to support us in our
hmm
effort to create a form of reparations and legislation that will help us move forward. We've got to get these people off the street. We've got to get these,
hmm
and majority of them are Black. We've got to get people
hmm
of our own people, of our own culture of America, who contribute to this country to be priority. but we don't. Now we have this virus that no one's paying attention to, because we've got to backtrack. Now we've got to, at least now because of social media, educate people to say, this is your power to go to these people and say, look, you need to fix this. You need to fix this and stop this stuff from coming in. You need to fix this and get these people off the street. You need to fix this and provide funding for a nation of people who cannot correct themselves. But you've allowed Lyndon B. Johnson, you've allowed Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson, excuse me, who basically took over after Lincoln, and who was impeached, to cause this greater division and this racism that still exists in America today. So there's a lot of healing, but a lot of correction. Go ahead, Edie.
I was going to say too, I absolutely love the fact that you brought up, when you're talking about population, what was happening in population in LA, Southern California, with regard to the fact that there were now so many people from South America, Mexico, everywhere else, and what it was doing, not just to the vote, but to the population and welfare of Blacks in Southern California. It's shocking.
So
and that is something that, as you say, unless we band together, our culture will die. It will die.
True.
We're there. So it's not a question of what you feel like or what you might like to think or anything like that. We're down to the issue of survival. And literally, unless we band together, we will not survive.
We won't survive. Not only will we not survive, we will find another nation of people to come over here and take us over like Switzerland. We'll become like Switzerland. Well, now Switzerland is now become the immigrant, and the immigrants are now ruling and running their country. This is the problem that England's having. That mayor or whoever's in that one particular town, he's Muslim.
In London.
In London. Thank you. You guys do work on that. He's gone in there and he's filtrated their ideas. And this is a problem because they disrespect.
And it's all in the name of so-called open-mindedness. The only issue is that he represents a culture, Muslim, that their values are diametrically opposed to everything the country was founded on. So it's not an issue of open-mindedness or not. It's a matter of, will we live by our culture's values and constitution?
That's true. I have one last question to you. Being Caucasian, we're going to talk black and white. And I thank you for your openness and your honesty. Do you think a lot of white people understand Black history?
I think they do to an extent. I think the way that you're bringing it out, though, is gut level. I think it's important. I think it needs to be shared. And I think a lot of people don't get it yet. So there's more education that needs to happen in a big way.
Because I get personally attacked by saying, well, you're being racist and bigoted. You keep focused on blood. We're all the same. They keep saying this, we're all the same.
And they don't get the level of the problem yet. I have, because I've been listening to you and I know that your heart is right. And I just kept listening and it was like, boom, yeah, she's right.
Thank you.
And this is what needs to happen. It does.
Thank you so much. My people are really hurting.
I love you, sister. I really do. I've been listening for a long time. You are one awesome person, and I hope and pray that you just continue, because we need this. We really do.
We really do. Well, I look forward to you coming back on our channel and on our YouTube channel. And God has put on my heart to focus more pro-Black. I've done a lot for the Trump administration. I've done a lot for the RNC and the California GOP. But when you realize that I'm this ethnicity for a reason, God put me in this body for a reason, and I need to be responsible towards that. And it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the culture of people who are descendants of slaves and my ancestors. And now that other people are coming in and now they're bringing diseases and my people
Yep.
are on the street, this is a
Yep.
problem. And
Yep.
you can't use the rope of, well, we have to be fair. Look at all these other people. No. If the Chinese people have come here and then they ride on the fact that they said that they built the railroad and said you were compensated for it as well, or blacks were not
Right.
compensated in the same manner. So I kind of get burnt out of other cultures of people invading in my people's space and claiming
Mhm.
the same fate and plight, and it's not true.
Mhm. Yep.
It's true.
I absolutely agree. I do. And I mean, honestly, the having lived in LA and the homeless situation, it has always struck me to my heart. I mean, the reality is most of us, we don't want to admit it, most of us are really one paycheck away from living on the street, if we're honest with ourselves.
It's true. And that has nothing to do with
So,
black or white. It's economics.
mhm.
It's true.
Yep. Yep.
But I
So,
say this one thing: you got more black and white people homeless than you do illegals and Chinese, because
you
they'll go
know
if
it.
they saw a Chinese person, they go pick up their people. Come on now,
Yep. Yep. True. Truth. Yep.
you know.
Absolutely.
But here we sit back. I can't go take every black homeless person. You can't take up every white person. But you don't see
Right.
no homeless Chinese person. You don't see no homeless El Salvadorian. And if you do, they're
Mhm.
very few and in between.
Yep.
But you'll find you some black and homeless white people. Go to YouTube channel Invisible People. You will see
Yeah.
a lot of black and white people being interviewed on Invisible People on YouTube. That gentleman interviews a lot of homeless people. But again, this
Yep.
ties into this virus, you guys. For those who just chimed in, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and like and click the like button and share this video and have
Mhm.
conversations, because we're talking about culture. We have Edie here who supporters the reparations, and she understands the plight of
Mhm.
what blacks are in America today. And she's looking to us to figure out what way can she support and what way are we going to fix this. She also
Mhm.
understands that it's going to take black people to fix this. It's going to take government to intervene and work with the black community, meaning the
Mhm.
descendants of slaves, not just any black person. But in the
Mhm.
meantime, we find America coinciding with all these other cultures of people, and then we get stuck fixing their problem and still not our own. That's a problem.
Interesting, isn't it?
It
They
is.
keep they keep manipulating us so that we're always off balance.
Yeah, this is deep. And why is
It's
that?
it's quite a game they got going, and they're working it.
Say that again. It's quite a game.
It's a game they've got going, and they really are working it.
And
It's worked for a long time.
mm, mm,
We have to change it.
we have to change it. I mentioned earlier on other videos, I talk about people should learn how to play Monopoly. They should learn how to play
Mhm.
chess, because
Mhm.
every piece does something different, but their goal is to move the board forward and take over
Forward.
their opponent. That means they work as
Mhm.
a unit. Each person does something totally different. Monopoly, people in monopolized areas, we see that in California, a bad version of Epcot. And
Mhm.
every time you go by that area, you have to pay or contribute, even if you don't want to. And
Mhm.
that's what we're finding. Everybody's been, if you lived in LA, you've been to Chinatown once or twice,
Mhm.
and you've deposited some money in those communities. But yet
Mhm.
they don't come back into your communities. And then they send the money
True.
over through remittance.
Yep.
And America has allowed this. So America has allowed them to come here, not integrate like they force blacks to do, but segregate themselves and have
Mhm.
quadrants of their own areas. America has
Mhm.
allowed them to bring their illegal frozen foods and now their diseases. This is what government has allowed. And now the EB5 visas and everything that they've done. But
Mhm.
if you're conservative and you speak against that, then you're saying racial terms. You're being offensive. You're aggressive. You're called every name
No.
under the book.
Mhm. Yep. That's part of the game too.
you know. But I think the
It
key
is.
thing is that how do we stay constantly awake? That's the question.
I think by continuing to talk as we're talking now, bringing more people into the conversation, educating, and as you say, then going back to our representatives at whatever level and saying, we need to put feet to this. We need to do it now.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, Edie, I won't hold you up. I know you said you had to go. Make sure that you follow me.
Yes,
In the private message, make sure you text me your email on Facebook
sure.
and your phone number, and then I will call you personally and thank you for giving me your
Wonderful.
time and your knowledge and your heart. I think my family, the ADOS family, we don't hear a lot of white people say that they support reparations in the manner that you explained it. And that you said
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an understanding either until I kept hearing Shirley and watching Shirley talk about it. And I wasn't offended or taken back. I started doing my own research. That's what I'm hearing from you. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And I started
That's
saying, well,
right.
she's got some points here. And then you
Mm-hmm.
said just by learning and watching from me, and then you can add to the table that stuff that maybe I don't know. And said, Shirley, I researched something out that can help you. And this is what I've
Mm-hmm.
told the ADOS family. We are
Mm-hmm.
descendants of slaves of the white colonists. We have white cousins that we are more connected to white people than Mexicans and Chinese. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to that. And nobody wants to talk about that.
Yep, I think it's an excellent, excellent point. I really do. And if we can do like a round table, I think that would be great.
I agree. And
Yep.
then we put that piece of legislation together and we fix America. And that's what
And
America
we
was supposed to do.
actually as citizens can do that. We can do legislation, hand it to a representative and say, "Here, I want this put on the floor for consideration and this is what I would like to see done." Because I have friends that have done it. So we can
Share
do
that a
that.
little bit of that process so people understand what you're saying. Because that's so important before you go. I know you got to go, but share that little piece that you said just now.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, and this was back when we were talking about was it to do with, well, it was basically just a restatement of the Wisconsin Constitution. And what he wanted to do was to put on the floor of the state assembly a bill that basically just said what the original Wisconsin Constitution said. Well, he got all kinds of blowback about it, and it was really difficult. And they tried to change the wording and stuff because so much. The reason he did it was because there's an awful lot of laws on the books that are actually not constitutional law and not legal. Under the Constitution, it says any law that does not conform to the Constitution is no law at all. So he was trying to bring us back to ground zero. He put this all together himself and worded it and everything and gave it to a representative, and they were going to bring it to the floor. Well, this is something that a lot of people don't know, is that they themselves can introduce legislation. You as a citizen can do that no matter where you are, whatever state. You can draft the wording of your bill, hand it to a representative and say, I need you to support me in this, and this is why. So this is something that we can do at our level. Now, in his situation, I think what the problem was is it was just him at that time. He was right about what he was saying. But if there is a group of people like us who get together to talk about reparations, to talk about whatever the issue is, we ourselves can introduce bills. And the same thing goes for Congress too, as a matter of fact. You can go to your representative and you can say, this is what needs to happen. We have gotten together, our group put together this bill. We want your support. So this is something that we can do.
And it starts like we said with each other, with us having conversations, for us to dig up things. I always said with the Trump administration when he came on board, I said the problem with Congress is this. Every time Congress gets together, it creates a new blue dress. I use the word blue because of Democrats and a lot of things that are associated with that. But just imagine you go to your closet and you've already got one or two blue dresses. But when it comes to Congress as a whole, they create another piece of legislation of a blue dress, meaning that they already have that. So why don't you work with existing law and build upon that and execute it? Instead, they act like it never existed. We don't have such a law. And so then they can manipulate what laws that have already been there that they don't want to adhere to or adhere to.
Right.
As American citizens, we need to go back and do our own homework. That may not be online because a lot of things online are manipulated. You guys need to go back and get these old libraries, get old sources. If you can find old content of books and legislation that was set in presence in law, and you serve Congress with it, because they'll look it up online and it may have one or two twists of words that does this inclusiveness or immigration where they are part commingled. No, it said Negro slave. It said Negro slave. And then Obama came in and he abolished the word Negro. We need the word Negro to have sting. It needs to be put back in. And if it's not still there, we have a problem, because now we have this inclusiveness, which means everybody gets a check. Everybody gets the benefit of the infrastructure. And that's a problem. That's a problem, because that does not coincide with the origin of the people who added value to get us where we are today.
They're very clever with things like that. And we have to go back to the original language and do exactly as you said. Take it back to the foundation. Take it back to the constitutional fundamentals, because that protects all of us.
It does. And it protects the blacks, because we make them say, see what you did and see what you did not do. And we want you to go back and do what you said you were going to do, and do it right. And do it right. And make the reconciliation of the reconstruction that never took place take place. And stop empowering foreign countries. And now, because you've done that, you've gone against God, you've gone against Scripture, you've gone against the Constitution. Now this plague is upon the world, and it could be upon us, because you have made us the haven of safety for other people versus your own. That is not of God, and that's of a curse.
That's very well said. That's right.
I thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Edie, I won't hold you up. I'll let you go. You guys make sure, Edie, if you want to be reached out, or are you just going to keep following us? I mean, do you want the family to follow you online, or you rather just watch?
If they want to find me on Facebook, I'm just there as a regular person. Edie, E-D-I-E, last name W-I-S-K-E. Looks like whiskey, we say whiskey.
All right. Well, my family that follows you are good people. They have a good heart and they mean well. So
Awesome.
I thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. You too. God bless.
Bye-bye. Well, family, I want to thank you so much for subscribing and watching. I know this has been a longer show again, where I kind of wanted to break down what was going on in China. Again, the coronavirus is out. We call it the Chinese virus. Ashley, Mr. Research privately said we should call it the coronavirus together, but it did come from China. They do eat and live a lifestyle that most of us don't live. I just want to show you one more thing. This video just popped up. Again, this is news alerts that are happening minute by minute with this virus that you guys need to be conscious of. Don't sleep at the wheel. But when you wake up in the morning, make sure you check your morning news. This is nothing to play with. This virus is real, and it's growing. It's growing. I want to see if another video came up real quick. I know that the BBC news might be more real than CNN and local American news, because they be lying. They be lying. Or they'll be limited, or they'll be marginalized. Let's change that word.
Russia is closing its 4,000-kilometer Far Eastern border with...
Sorry about that.
Tests are being carried out on her.
Try it again.
1,000-kilometer Far Eastern border with China to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Other countries have suspended flights to China, halted road traffic, and stopped Chinese citizens entering. The number of people who have died has now jumped to 170, all of them in China. Nearly 8,000 people have confirmed infections. A flight to return about 200 British nationals to the UK from virus-hit Wuhan has been unable to take off as planned. Robin Brandt has more from Shanghai.
Today was supposed to be the day they got out and away from this. The death toll and the number infected continues to rise here in China. The city of Wuhan is the epicenter of the outbreak, but Britons are still stuck there because of bureaucracy.
We were really worried about the reports of younger and younger children becoming sick. And at the time they said it was fine, but when I received a call the next day, they said that only I could go and my son would have to stay. And which obviously was very devastating to hear.
English teacher Natalie's son can't go because he has a Chinese passport. Chris Hill has a similar problem. His wife and daughter have dual nationality.
Would you be willing to leave your family behind to go to safety? It's a very hard and moral question, because my daughter's only 4 years old. So it's a very hard choice to make.
Other countries have got their people out. Japan and the US with the first of several planned flights. India and Australia are among those planning others. The Foreign Office said it is working urgently to resolve the problem for British citizens, with talks at very senior levels. Quarantine on a military base or an NHS facility back in the UK awaits. Fear about the virus spreading has caused scenes like this across all of China, even in Hong Kong, which has now all but cut itself off from the mainland.
I queued for an hour and 10 minutes and bought 2 boxes of masks. We were running out of them at home. Hong Kong should act like Taiwan to stop exporting masks and keep them for the locals so that we don't have to queue for hours.
More cases are being reported around the world. In Italy, passengers on a cruise ship are being held on board because of 2 suspected cases among them. But the head of the World Health Organization had nothing but praise for China's efforts.
I will praise China again and again, because its actions actually helped in reducing the spread of coronavirus to other countries.
Still, though, drastic measures are being taken here, far away from the worst affected area, to try to halt the spread. Office workers in buildings over 1,000 kilometers away are having their temperatures checked daily.
Let's get you the latest on some of the developments today. I'm joined by Sarah Rainsford in Moscow. Mark Lowen is in Rome. Sarah.
I'm going to stop right here because I want you guys take your time today and start watching these videos. Be conscious of the fact that there are people in this country who just flew over here. It takes 3 weeks before this thing harvests to its fruition to come out. I was told 3 weeks. Again, watch this video again. I think we should talk about our next round. Listen to me. China's invasion into Africa, because these Chinese people are now in Africa, right? They're in Africa, and they're mixing with the foundational people, the foundational country, and God is not happy. God is not happy with this media yoke of these Chinese people who have now come into Black culture, living, harvesting, benefiting off of Black people. And we as a Black people, we need to be conscious of what has happened in our country, in our homeland country, our foundational country of Africa. And then we need to start talking about what it can affect. Africa could affect us and can affect the rest of our culture of people. That is a conversation that we probably will have in the next near show. So I appreciate you guys. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Make sure a couple of things. Watch where you eat. I would stay out of Chinese people. Anybody you see with a mask, walk around them. I would stay away from the Chinese hair salons. I'm just being honest. This is just what I suggest that you do. You can use whatever suggestions you want to do. I know it may sound cruel, but I'm going to be honest. I want to keep you alive. Again, watch what you eat. Don't eat these strange anatomy wrapped up meat that you don't know what the hell it is. That's when they talk about we should be eating this veggie meat that they got at these fast food restaurants. You don't know what vegetables in it. If you don't know what it is, don't eat it. If you don't know what it is, don't eat it. Because that is part of why we are dealing with this disease. Another thing, when you go to get your nails done, these are not Chinese people. These are Vietnamese people that we have to keep in mind. But that culture, that Asian culture, does cross-pollinate. So yes, there are not a lot of Chinese people who do nails. It's more Vietnamese, but they cross-pollinate. That means they hang out with each other, right? Or they might intermarry each other. So because of that, and they do a lot of traveling abroad, where we don't do that. We stay here in America. Look at our people in our situation. I can't fly to China twice, 3, 4, 5 times a year just to fly to Germany. My cousin's out in Germany. That's going to cost $2,000 or $3,000. So these people, they do this all the time, and they bring these diseases back here. They're your landlords in California. A lot of landlords are Chinese. Be careful if they say, hey, if you pay me my money, you might want to say, you know what? I'll mail you the check. No, I come pick up. Okay, I put it under my mat, and you can pick it up from there. You don't need to have physical or emotional contact with these people. If they cough on you, it's an airborne disease. Let's make this clear. This is an airborne disease. So these are little tips that I want to have. Again, today, we will see where we are maybe by the weekend. We know that the toll of the numbers are rising. And if we want to be conscious and awoke, we need to be conscious of what is going on in America and abroad. Thank you so much. Thank you for following Urban Game Changers. And thank you for supporting, liking, and subscribing and sharing this video on platforms of groups where conversations need to be executed of current affairs in the Black community and within the world. If we stay current, we can stay relevant, and we can stay awoke, and we can stay safe. Thank you for your time, and good night.